This segment is brought to you by Cardiovascular Institute of the South, providing our patients the highest quality cardiovascular care available.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Once again, your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. You know, this time of year comes around and we know that school is letting out, but that means so many different things to so many different people, and we're glad to welcome back to the program Jared Martin, Superintendent of Lafourche Parish Schools. Welcome back to the show, Jared.
Thank you so much for having me.
We appreciate it. I know there's so much going on. Tell us a little bit about how you guys have approached and things that y'all are thinking about here at the end of the school year.
Well, we've got a few initiatives that are happening this week. We, obviously the last week of school, today would have been the last day of school had it not been for the snow issue that we dealt with a few months ago. So we are extending through tomorrow, which will be our official last day of school, which was going to be our Teacher Records Day. Mm-hmm. So we had this week to get all of those grades together, to get all of the last minute details up and done before the teachers leave out of the door Friday and begin their summer. We had a lot of stuff to get done. And so that's what's happening this week throughout our schools. We're also celebrating all of our kids' hard work during LEAP testing. And it's really hard to overstate how much LEAP testing has changed the end of school. Likely when you and I were in school, you remember that the last week of school was a whole bunch of 9 weeks exams and tests wrapping up the school year. Right. But the shifted a lot of that to really 2 or 3 weeks ago was kind of the crescendo of the school year, if you will, with LEAP testing. And now we've got teachers wrapping up projects, wrapping up things that they were not able to get through the school year and really having a lot of fun with the kids. I just left. I happened to be visiting today North LaRose Elementary School, and the big event happening right now here is a 5th grade kickball tournament that I had to step away from to take this call. So having all kids on these last few days of school, and again, this is as a reward for all of their hard work during LEAP testing. You know, these young kids, they've answered the call so many times to sit, concentrate, and work sometimes 3 and 4 hours a day or more for multiple days in a row. In fact, it takes us about 2 weeks to start and finish testing. So this week is a lot of closing up, a lot of cleaning up and getting ready for the never-ending work, which is preparing for the opening of the school in August.
Right. Always one of those things. And it's so very interesting as the kids, think about extra school days this week, they tend to forget that they had so many days off for the snow event, right? That seems to go out of their mind.
Without a doubt. And everybody that I've spoken to says, this would have been our last day. I'm like, yeah, but do you remember how great that week of snow was?
Yeah, exactly.
Entire community would accept having to prolong school a few days if we every year got blessed with 8 or 9 inches of snow and being with family locked inside for a week. I know I sure would.
I know that's right. Let's talk a little bit about the end of the year now also with graduations. We have so many of those here in Lafourche.
Busy for us. We celebrated Central Lafourche's graduating class Tuesday. Thibodeau High's graduating class last night, Wednesday, in Thibodeau, and tonight I'll be at South Lafourche at 7 p.m. watching the sunset on their football field. Thibodeau and Central go to the Civic Center, but South Lafourche being, an hour and 50 minutes away from Thibodeau, they actually host it on their campus, on their football field. By some miracle, the good Lord has always blessed us with weather that allows us to pull it off, and it's probably going to be pretty warm, maybe a little buggy, but definitely beautiful. And then we have our virtual academies graduation Friday night. So every graduates in the neighborhood of 900 kids, and we're also proud of their accomplishment.
Well, and not only that, but you guys, and you do something really unique because we have Lafourche such a long parish. You got 4 different options for people graduating. You do it on a different night: Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday. And it's wonderful that family members or extended family members can be a part of that celebration for people that maybe are close family in other areas in the parish of Lafourche.
Without a doubt. So last night at Thibodeau High's graduation, they had the largest graduating class this year. I don't know that there was 10 empty seats in the auditorium in Thibodeau High. It was jammed up. So you're able to not have 1, 2, or 3 tickets per graduate. You're able to give out 8, 9, or 10 per graduate. And it's really wonderful to see the grandmothers, the aunts, the uncles, the cousins come out to celebrate the culmination of high school with all these kids. It's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, last question for this particular segment, but Superintendent, can you just tell us maybe some of the things that you're most proud of right now as we come to a close for this 2025 school season here in the spring?
Yeah, that we're no longer talking about the effects of COVID and Hurricane Ida, that our community has rebounded in such a phenomenal way, and that our schools are largely back up and running. We've got a couple that I know we're going to talk about in the next segment, but for the vast majority, I'm sitting in one right now at North Rose Elementary School. You would never know that a hurricane came and wiped this building out. Our kids are back to normal. Our teachers are doing a great job, and it's so wonderful to see this community rebound.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, as a community individual and just kind of watching what happens here in our parishes, that none of these scores ever were represented by the difficult and trauma that we experience. And that is a credit to everyone that works in the school system. And it starts with you at the top. But our scores stayed high and our spirits stayed high. And so that's something we're really excited about. Superintendent, we're going to take a short break. We'll come right back and talk a whole lot more with you about some of the other projects going on. Thank you for staying with us.
This segment was brought to you by Waits and Downer, attorneys at law.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Once again, your host, Keith Whiteside, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And joining us once again, Lafourche Parish School Board Superintendent Jared Martin. Jared, thanks again for being here.
Thank you again for having me.
Very good. You talked about it a little bit. It's so glad to be able to finish a school, see a school session, and be able to talk a little bit about good things instead of really focused on COVID or Ida. But we're still got some good news coming out from with the schools and some of that recovery. Tell us a little bit about some of the recovery that we can expect here going forward from Ida.
Yes, sir. I'll start in the Kramer community. Bayou Buff Elementary School. Important to a lot of folks, and it's probably the foundational facility in the community of Kramer. It's been a long-standing fixture. In fact, one of the oldest in Louisiana. We still have what's called the Little Red Schoolhouse. It's this single classroom schoolhouse that has stood for over 100 years in that little town, and that community was rocked by Hurricane Ida. Water ran all through that elementary school, and we've been waiting forever to get the project underway. And I'm happy to say demolition has finally begun. Very sad to see this old historic building, not the Little Red Schoolhouse, but of course the other part of the campus being torn down.
Yeah.
But it's FEMA's working with us, and we're making some real progress. So demolition is underway. We are currently still in the design phase to finalize some of the details of being rebuilt, but we expect to see the rebuild process starting really soon for the Bayou Buff Elementary School project. The Little Red Schoolhouse is going to be rehabilitated, and we're going to be able to do some really neat things for this school, like getting the car line off of the highway. We're confident that our architects are going to be able to pull that off and just really make large-scale improvements to a campus that, truthfully, we probably couldn't have done had it not been for the devastating effects of Hurricane Ida. So the silver lining is that I do believe it's going to go back better than it was before. But the dark cloud is, of course, the many years of displacement that these kids had to suffer. But they are in a school. They're actually in the old Chack Bay Elementary School. They're doing very, very well. And we were fortunate to have a facility to allow these kids to participate in. The second school that I think is important to mention that we've been on a long waiting list, and that wait seems to have finally come to an end, is Golden Meadow Middle School. The work is beginning on the pieces of the campus that are going to be retaining. We've already begun the process of identifying where the new building is going to be constructed. And so that work is taking off as well. And so we're really excited that in the next 2 years, we may be able to start moving the Bayou Buff Elementary children and the Golden Meadow Middle School students that are currently being educated off campus at another site where we were able to consolidate some students back to their original campus. So really excited about those improvements. We have some smaller projects, some roofing repairs that have to happen at Central Lafourche, and a real frustrating thing it doesn't seem that important, but if you're a student athlete or the parent of a student athlete, we've got some press boxes and some concession stands at our baseball and softball complexes at Central Lafourche that have been a long, long story to finally get done that has still not been done. We're in the last phases of FEMA approval, and we're very optimistic that in the next few months we can begin the process of putting back together these concession stands and press boxes for those baseball, softball complexes.
Well, lots of things where people will be able to call home again, and we know how important that is to be able to do that. So looking forward to both of those schools doing that, and for those ancillary support systems, right, to really being able to help our athletes and student athletes. And speaking of that, tell us a little bit more about the new esports middle school teams.
Yeah, really neat. So years ago, we were approached, and it was brought to me this idea of esports in high schools. I was on the fence in the beginning, and then when I saw how really excited the kids were about it, how engaging it could actually be, you think of video gaming as a very isolating event where you're alone in a room and you're engaged in these video games, but actually the modern gaming world is far from isolating. These kids are in rooms competing together as groups, and they are playing all of the games that I know my son actually likes to play and grew up playing. We played them at home, so they're playing Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, chess, and a game called Rocket League, which actually looks like a little remote control cars chasing a soccer ball around. So it's a really cool thing that we right now have about 10 or 12 kids in the high schools playing, but we were given an opportunity through, it's actually Louisiana STEM Region 3, the Bayou STEM program from a Miss Landry, brought the possibility of funding and bringing some of the pictures that you just showed, esports, to our middle schools as well. So now we'll be expanding our middle school offering to have a Nintendo Switch platform, esports opportunity. Again, it's going to be Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, Rocket League, and chess to our middle schoolers. And to see these kids come together, compete, and interact with one another, it really is kind of the antithesis of what one would think about when you think about a kid being isolated and playing video games. It is far from it. It's engaging, it's spirit building, and it gives another way for a kid to be connected with school, and that's really our goal. We're certainly not promoting or not promoting any given activity, but as a former principal, I can tell you the most important thing for me to do as a principal with children is connect them to school in some meaningful way. Some kids walk through the door and they want to connect to chemistry because they love chemistry. Not every kid is that kid. Some kids need this other thing to fall in love with school, and we're very grateful for the opportunity that Bayou STEM has created by allowing that opportunity, and we're just really happy to see our kids engaged in great fun.
Well, Superintendent, we appreciate all of the updates. Certainly, congratulations on a wonderful new year. We look forward to great things happening in the Lafourche Parish Schools. Thanks again.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. And that'll do it for this particular segment and this Bayou Time, but don't go anywhere. A whole lot more right here on HTV.
This segment was brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together.